The FlexBar is more than just an extension of Photoshop's default toolbar. It allows you to assign tools to other functions, menu items, filters, plugins, and even fonts or colors, and to combine them as you like. Functions that are usually hidden in menus or processes you repeat frequently are now always within reach. In addition, the FlexBar can be configured in a highly flexible way, similar to the contextual taskbar, adapting to the context of the currently used function or selection. This makes it incredibly versatile and opens up a wide range of possibilities. Hi, I'm Remy from Picture Instruments, and in this video I'll show you what's possible with the FlexBar in Photoshop, how to configure it, and most importantly, how it can significantly improve your workflow. Let's start at the beginning. The FlexBar is divided into pages. On each page you can add and combine tools, functions, filters and more. In the standard installation of the plugin, you already find a variety of presets we've created. For example, the selection page. It gives you instant access to the most popular selection tools. On the layers page, you'll find commonly used blending modes like normal, multiply and screen, along with a convert to smart object. You can even use these functions to apply color labels to layers. On the masking page, you always have quick access to actions like remove background, disable mask or delete mask. As mentioned, each page is completely customizable. Let me show you how to create your own page and add your personal tools or commands. I open the configuration and create a new page, calling it Images. Then I click Edit and see a blank page. Clicking Add New Element gives me a selection of different items to insert. I always begin with a new section, essentially the title of my page, and assign it a color. Next, I create my first button, which you can also do by holding Alt or Option and left clicking. Now I see a list of all available tools and functions. For instance, I choose RGB or CMYK mode. Functions that are usually buried in the menus. Another example. I often use Flip Vertical, which normally requires navigation to the Edit and Transform menu, or using Ctrl or Command+T and right-clicking. If I use something regularly, I want it easily accessible. By the way, you have access to over 400 tools and functions, including your brushes, tool presets and all of your actions. You can create unlimited buttons per page and unlimited pages. The FlexBar is scrollable, which you can enable or disable in the settings as needed. For long lists like font selection, you can jump directly to the first letter with one click. The FlexBar can be docked or floating just like you're used to. In FlexBar, there are even more useful elements besides just a headline or a button. To make things a bit more organized, I can also add a divider line. I drag it upwards in front of the flip buttons using a left click. Alternatively, I can use Shift plus click or Control or Command plus click to move it downward. I can also create a line break and place it before the font button. What else is there? Empty space is basically a spacer. I insert it right after the section at the top, which helps separate the other two buttons from the headline. You'll now notice a small gap in that area. Finally, I add a vertical line. If you want to hide the icons, just uncheck the corresponding checkbox. Or the other way around, if you only want to see the icon without text, simply clear the text field for the button. You can also give a page a cleaner look by adjusting the width of the elements. First, I delete the vertical line and then show you what I mean. At the bottom, you can see the font button. As soon as I check the expand width option, the button expands across the entire width of the panel. If there are two elements in a row, like here, they each take up half the space. In the first row, I enable full width for the spacer, which pushes the color mode buttons to a line on the right. It's up to me whether I want the interface in portrait or landscape orientation. One simple but powerful way to use the FlexBar is to assign filters you use regularly. I'm a big fan of Photoshop's path blur filter, so I add it to my page. Now I draw some smoke lines with a brush tool on different layers above a candle. Then I apply the path blur to the first layer. I'm doing it quickly here just for the example, but you get the idea. Now I apply it to the other layers without having to search for the filter in the menu every time. When you go back to the plugins homepage, you'll notice that my path blur page isn't listed here. That's because the homepage is just another customizable page like all others. If you don't want to click through multiple pages using the arrows, you can just add a link button to your new page right on the homepage. I'll create a new button and link it to my new page. I'll call it My Filters. Now it's visible right away and it takes me directly to my new page. This kind of shortcut doesn't have to be on the home page. It can be on the footer or anywhere else. Personally, I like having an overview page that links to all my main pages, and I place it in the footer for quick access. One thing that sometimes bugs me about the Photoshop toolbar is that tool submenus keep collapsing even if I frequently switch between them. When I use the shape tools, for instance, I constantly have to reopen that submenu. Sure, I could rotate through the tools with Shift+U or customize the toolbar using Photoshop's Edit toolbar. But it's way more elegant with FlexBar. I create a new page and add all the shape tools to it so they're always visible. I start with a section and assign it a color. Then I add the button, scroll down to Tools and select the Rectangle tool. Next, I add a button for the Ellipse tool and so on. Of course, I could also use the search bar at the top to find tools faster, but since the Tools section stays open, I just scroll down to the Shape tools. I also shorten the suggested button label to save space. Just like that, I've got all my shape tools ready to go. No more submenus to deal with. One of the great things about FlexBar is that you can recreate entire workflows. Let me show you what I mean. I recently followed a tutorial, and while I was able to repeat the steps, I might forget the process over time. So I rebuilt the entire workflow inside FlexBar to help me remember. My goal here is to blur the background of this photo using path blur. I start by creating a new page and call it BG Blur. Then I add the tools in the same order they appear in the tutorial. As always, I start with a section. Then I create a button, this time using the search function. Next, I add another section as a kind of reminder to select the bottom layer. I'm also shortening the element here by typing cell instead of select. Now I quickly add the remaining tools in a fast forward, and then I'll show you how I edit the image. Now that everything is set up, I simply follow the steps from left to right. Duplicate the layer, select the lower one, make a selection around the subject, expand it, then use Content Aware Fill to remove the person. I convert the layer to a smart object and apply the path blur. I draw some arrows to guide the blur direction. And that's done. Now I select the top layer again, mark the subject with the Object Selection tool and apply Remove Background. And that's it! Like I said, this is a great method for me to remember the process in case I don't do it very often. One thing I never understood about Photoshop is why the align functions aren't always visible, unlike in many other design tools. That's why I created a dedicated FlexBar page for alignment. The align functions in FlexBar always refer to the artboard and work with any tool selected. So I just leave Photoshop's alignment mode on selection. This way I have both modes available. When I work on flyers, I also add new guide to the same page. Normally, placing a pixel-perfect guide takes 3 clicks. That's too much. Sure, I could use a shortcut, but for people who don't like memorizing shortcuts, FlexBar is a great solution. Speaking of shortcuts, the one for show or hide guides is Ctrl or Command plus semicolon, which is not accessible on a German keyboard. You'd have to reassign it anyway. So I just add that function as a button too. I also include new guide layout, lock guides, clear guides, and guide preferences, so I can change the default guide color if needed. Here is another helpful use case. When I design for clients, like flyers or social media posts, I create a dedicated CI page with their corporate identity. It includes their main colors, fonts, sizes, font colors, and more. Now I adjust the Instagram post by changing the font, and then I'll update the background color of the rectangle. I select it and press Alt or Option plus Delete to fill it with the foreground color. Same for the parallelogram. I can even store a file and place it into the document with a single click. You'll find this under File and Place Linked Selected File. I choose the company logo and now with one click it appears in the document and I can adjust it right away. This way I have direct access to the most important elements and don't have to search through folders. I find my CI page a bit cluttered and would like to group the elements. We already covered how to do that in Chapter 2. To start, I open the configuration by clicking Edit Page. After the section, I insert a line break. This time, instead of using the Add New Element button, I left-click the hamburger icon and create a new element above it. Now I can change the type of element and choose a line break. Above the font section, I create another element and choose a horizontal line. I also group the remaining elements and activate the Expand Element checkbox. That makes everything look cleaner and more structured. If you want, you can take things even further. Everyone knows those tiny tabs on the right in Photoshop, they can get a bit chaotic. That's why I created a mega menu page. It's essentially one big FlexBar page with all my favorite tools and functions. It starts with a new document from Clipboard, which instantly opens a new document and pastes the image from your clipboard. Then you have access to image mode and flip functions, the most important layer blend modes, selection tools, alignment functions, guide tools, shape tools and more. Maybe this will inspire you to create your own mega menu. Alright, now let's talk about another important feature that FlexBar offers. Most of you probably know Photoshop's Contextual taskbar, which has been available since 2023. As the name suggests, it appears depending on the context, like which tool you're currently using or what type of layer you have selected. Sometimes this can be very helpful, but many people tend to disable it because it's confusing, doesn't show what they want, or simply can't be customized. And that's the great thing about FlexBar. You can also show or hide it based on context or jump to specific pages. For example, if I click on a shape tool, the page with all shape tools opens up. If I select the marquee tool, the page with the corresponding tools pops up. You can set it up however you want. Decide when a certain page of a plugin should open, or when the entire plugin should show or hide based on your interaction. To do this, go into the plugin configuration and click on Context at the top. For example, I want my selection page in FlexBar to open automatically whenever I make a selection. So I go to Content Change, choose Select Page, and link my selection page. Now you can already see the effect if you're on a different page and then create a selection. I also want the Shapes page to open as soon as I activate a shape tool. You can even show specific pages depending on the layer type, whether it's a text layer, a pixel layer, and so on. As you can see, the plugin now switches to the text page because I've selected a text layer and switches to the image page when I select a pixel layer. There's also the option to have FlexBar automatically open or close during certain activities, for example when I create a selection or deselect it. For this, I turn the power icon here green and this icon red. If these power buttons stay inactive, you'll need to enable the checkbox under Settings and Context first. If you have FlexBar docked and it annoys you that the image content shifts every time the bar appears or disappears automatically, you can also undock FlexBar and float it in the same position where you would dock it. All in all, FlexBar becomes a much better contextual taskbar in my opinion, and it offers so many ways to customize it exactly how you want. FlexBar also gives you plenty of options to customize colors. You can assign your custom color schemes to each element on a page. Not only can you change the button background, but also the font color and border. And below each of those, you'll see a second color. That's your hover color when the mouse is over the button. The colors you define here can be assigned to your elements in the page configuration. You can hide any unused color schemes by unchecking them in the visibility column. If you want, you can rename the colors too. Right-click to copy the color code, which is super useful when you want to create subtle variations for hover states, for example. You can even customize the plugin's footer. Normally, you see buttons for editing the plugin or opening the settings. You can also add a home button or navigation arrows for next and previous pages. But in fact, you can add any tool or function to the footer, just like with your regular pages. I'll add Generative Fill here, since I use it a lot and don't want to rely on the contextual taskbar for that. I hope you like FlexBar as much as I do, and that I was able to give you some inspiration on how to configure your own setup to improve your workflow. Check out our other plugins and videos. You'll find the links in the description. And if you don't want to miss anything, feel free to subscribe to our channel. Looking forward to seeing you next time.